I like to just think of an AE as any untoward medical occurrence in that patient. I take this second part out. I know that's the actual definition. But you can have an AE and not be administered a ConMed for it. Like, I could experience a headache today, tomorrow, the next day, and I could remember when I go into my study visit that I had a headache and it lasted about 4 days, but I didn't take any medicine, right? That would still be an adverse event. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that a ConMed is given for, okay? Many times they are, and chances are I would have taken an ibuprofen or something, but it doesn't have to be, okay? So an AE could be any unfavorable and unintended sign, so an abnormal lab finding or an abnormal blood pressure reading, okay? Symptom or disease temporarily associated with the use of an investigational product, whether or not related to the investigational product. So this is important, okay, because you're a coordinator, and your job is not to assess whether a patient experiencing an adverse event is related to the study drug or not. That's the PI's job. That's the PI's role. Your role is just to document everything. So if the patient told you they have heartburn last week, you document that they had a heartburn. That's an AE. You ask them, okay, was this did it require hospitalization? Did it require you to take any medications? What did you do about it? How long did it last? You try to collect all these details. The PI is going to determine if this is an SAE, and also the PI is going to determine whether this is related in his or her best opinion, in their clinical judgment. Is this related to the study drug? Possibly. Okay. We're going to get into that in some of the slides as well. So your job as a coordinator, again, is not to make these determinations. It's to document as much detail as possible so that your PI and the CRA and then the sponsor, once it's all put into the EDC, can make those determinations on a larger scale. Okay. Please note, it's a red flag to the FDA or monitors or any other auditor with common sense if in a longer trial, like a study that goes on for months with a patient in it, does not have any adverse events. Okay. I always tell my staff, I have an adverse event every day. Okay. This morning I woke up, I had a mild headache and some fatigue. Okay. Technically it's an AE. If I'm the patient and I'm in a study and I tell my coordinator that I had a headache and I felt more fatigue than usual today, okay, technically that's an AE. Now, if the patient doesn't mention anything, obviously the coordinator can't document anything, but the coordinator needs to do a good job of asking open-ended questions to the subject so that they can collect these adverse events. Because remember, just because you don't think something is related potentially to the study drug doesn't mean that it's not. And if everyone thinks that way, then things are going to go undocumented. And then when the drug is actually approved and out on the market, the FDA is going to say, whoa, where did all these adverse events come from? Because in clinical trials, we didn't see these. Well, that's because everybody's taking on this mindset that they don't need to capture these things. That's not what you should do. You should assume that everybody, all the other sites, are being as thorough as possible, and quite honestly, what they do shouldn't concern you. Okay, this is your patients, this is your career, you need to take it seriously. All right? Question the patient about possible AEs should be open-ended and not leading. Okay, so if the subject is unclear about what you're asking, offer them an example. Hey, today I woke up, I had a headache. Did you ever experience something like that since your last visit? Anything. It doesn't have to be a headache, stomach ache, even if you think it's something mild. All right? I want you to tell me. I want to know what you have so that we can keep you safe during the study. Okay, these are important things to collect. Now, sometimes the patients see the physician before they see the coordinator. In these cases, maybe the patient told the PI that they had a upset stomach. Okay. Since their last visit, on one day they had upset stomach. So the PI is documenting these in his or her progress notes, as he should, and as we discussed on the first slide of this module. Now, it's your job as the coordinator to actually read what the PI wrote, because if the patient told the PI about their stomach ache, they may not tell you when they see you. Okay, because they assumed, rightfully so, since they told the PI that it's been documented and that it will be addressed, right? So, but the PIs doesn't enter data in the EDC. That's the coordinator. The PI doesn't put things in the AE log usually. That's the coordinator. So you can see how a lot of things can go falling through the cracks, and then you're hoping that you have a good CRA that catches this. A CRA that's actually reading all the progress notes to make sure that the coordinator is capturing everything on the logs and in the EDC, which is where all the data ultimately goes to, that the PI and other clinicians are documenting. Okay, so it gets tricky for a coordinator. You got to pay very close attention to every single detail. Same thing with a CRA, but it starts really at the coordinator level. Okay, AEs typically begin the moment the subject signs the informed consent.